In December 2020, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, announced that it was developing a new digital health credential solution that will safely and securely store all vaccine and test information in the one place. Now, the Travel Pass has since been developed and has been trialed by a number of airlines ahead of a full general use rollout sometime in March. And I have to say, I'm very pleased indeed to be joined by Alan Murray Hayden, who's the head of airport passenger and security products at IATA and one of the creators of said Travel Pass. Alan, an absolute pleasure. In layman's terms, can you explain the Travel Pass?
Maybe before we get into the Travel Pass, maybe it's a good idea to look at the current situation and the problems we're trying to solve. If you think about what's happening at Dublin Airport, London, all the airports in the world at the moment, typically airlines are carrying between 5 and 10% of the normal volumes of traffic. But what's happening is that they have more check-in agents on duty now than they have during the busiest day of the summer. And all they're doing is checking people's test results, in the future their vaccine results, checking their documentation, etc. So there's two key challenges. Number one is ensuring that everybody can have confidence in the test results, because a lot of these checks are about making sure that these test results are real, etc. And the second thing is the capacity issue. So even if everybody was properly documented or everybody was vaccinated, airports are currently at full capacity just checking the physical documents. So even if we wanted to double the amount of passengers carrying, we couldn't if we have to keep on manually checking people. So the purpose behind the Iot Travel Pass is to enable passengers to receive their test results in a verifiable manner and then share them with the airlines again in a verifiable manner before they get to the airport. So all the checks, all the proof of passport, proof of vaccination is all done off airport. Now, how it works is it's using mobile technologies, and it's a really clever solution. So the passengers download the mobile app to begin with. It's currently an IATA app, but in the future, airlines will integrate it into their own apps. And that's really key because, the three airlines I fly are always Aer Lingus, KLM, and EasyJet. And I have all three of those apps on my phone. And that's where I want to do all of this. I don't want to be going to an IATA app or some other app. So anyway, the passengers download the solution onto their phone. They create a digital version of their passport. And that's by taking a picture of the passport, putting their passport at the back of the phone, the chip is read, and we do all sorts of authentication. So at that point, the passenger has got a copy on their app. They've got a digital version of their passport. They then go to laboratories, and we're putting solutions in with the laboratories around the world. They prove their identity to the laboratory, and then the laboratory sends the test results to the passenger's phone. So then the passenger's got their identity and their test results on their phone. What we then do is we send those two elements into a system called IATA Thematic, which many of your viewers will probably be familiar with. And Thematic basically gives all of the immigration regulations for every country in the world and for every nationality. And we check whether those COVID test results are good for travel. And if they are good for travel, we send back a yes. Then the passenger's got three things on their phone. They've got their identity, they've got their test results, and they've got an okay to travel. And at that point, the passenger can either share with the airline by clicking on share, or they can actually get an okay to travel screen, which they can present to the check-in or immigration agent. Mm-hmm. So from a passenger perspective, it's really simple. Create a digital identity, receive their test results on the phone, and click on share with the airline.
This app is going to have your personal medical information on it. So what measures have you taken to make sure that the Travel Pass will keep that information safe?
This is central to the Iot Travel Pass. As I spoke about earlier, it's based on decentralized principles. And what that means is, in layman's terms, is that your passport details and your health details remain on your phone. There is no central storage of that data. IATA does not have access to that data. You, the passenger, can choose to share that with both the airline and the government. And when that happens, the data gets sent directly to the airline and the government. Now, what's really important at this stage is that you are going to have to do that anyway. Even without the app, you always need to provide your passport details to the airlines. So there's nothing new in terms of how much data you're sharing. All the app does is enable you to do it in a much more efficient and secure manner.
Of course, the eagle-eared listeners will detect that you are very much an Irishman. We take nothing but pride in Irish people who are centrally involved in international affairs. So tell us a bit about your own background and how you ended up as the head of airport passenger and security products at IATA.
So I first studied in DIT and I graduated in 1995. directly from college. If you remember, there wasn't much happening in Ireland at that stage. So I ended up working for TNT in the headquarters in Amsterdam, which was the package freight company. So it was a great time. It was a great time to be in Amsterdam as well. I worked there for about 10 years and then I switched over to Iot in 2005. Since then, I was working for the first 10 years in a product called Thematic. And Thematic is the rules engine of immigration regulations. So traditionally, when it began, it was just a simple book and a very simple database. And then we converted it over into a rules engine, which would automatically process passengers as part of online and kiosk check-in. So last year we processed 800 million passengers via the Thematic database, which is about 50% of all international passengers. And actually, I should say in 2019 before COVID.
For many industry experts, the travel pass or these digital passes are the key, along with a successful vaccine program, to unlocking the door to restoring international travel. So how does it feel to be the Irishman who could potentially be the savior of our industry?
Listen, I can guarantee you there's an awful lot more people involved in this than just me. So, it would be great to take the credit, but I can guarantee I'm only a tiny part in the overall cog.
In your own view, what do you see? I mean, there's so much questions, and I'm sure you follow the news in Ireland. Is that one of the main criticisms of government is the lack of clarity in offering a roadmap towards so-called normal life. But from where you sit in IATA, do you have a prediction on when you imagine that we might resume international travel effectively, safely?
I don't have a view personally, but if you look at forward-looking bookings, which is some of the economic statistics which IATA generates, you see that the bookings are very, very weak for the rest of this year. Again, I think it's going to come down to the role which governments play in having a coherent and strategic strategy for getting out of lockdown. And, much in all this, it's very hard for an Irishman to appraise what the British have done. If you look at what England has done, especially in terms of both the vaccination and the coming up with a strategic plan about how they're going to exit COVID, I think they've done a really, really good job. And I've got to say, I'm a little bit dismayed as an Irish person when I see what our government is doing. I wish they would be coming up with a plan as to how exactly Ireland is going to exit lockdown. And again, you've got to think about it. As we were drilled in school, Ireland is a small, open economy. The longer this goes on, the more it's going to hit our economy, the more tax take is going to be down. And tax take funds things like hospitals, schools. For me, if I was in government, I would be actively trying to figure out how we're going to get out of this mess, how we're going to vaccinate everybody, and how we're going to open up our economy again. And I really hope the Irish government does that.
Alan Murray Hayden, it's been an absolute pleasure. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us on ITTN.